What is a project and what is project management? Project is an individual or collaborative enterprise that is carefully planned to achieve a particular aim, such as organizing a party at home, selecting a person to be your spouse, or a research project at the university. A project has several characteristics. Projects are unique, projects are temporary in nature and have a definite beginning and ending date. Projects are completed when the project goals are achieved or it's determined the project is no longer viable. Project management is the practice of initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing the work of a team to achieve specific goals and meet specific success criteria at the specified time. The primary challenge of a project management is to achieve all the project goals within the given constraints. The primary constraints are the scope, the time, quality, and the budget. The secondary and more ambitious ones are to optimize the allocation of necessary inputs and apply them to pre-defined objectives. The object of project management is to produce a complete project which complies with the client's objectives. In many cases, the object of a project management is also to shape or reform the client's brief to feasibility, be able to address the client's objectives. Once the client objectives are clearly established, they should influence all decisions made by other people involved in the project. For example, project managers, designers, contractors, and subcontractors. Ill-defined or too tightly prescribed project management objectives are detrimental to decision making. Projects, big and small, have a lot of moving parts. There's so much to coordinate and track to get from point A to point B and execute a successful project. That's why projects are broken down into smaller, more digestible pieces known as project phases. Project phases allow you to take your unwieldy project and organize it so that you can wrap your mind around it and make progress. In a project, there are 5 phases: initiating, planning, execution, controlling, and closing. Throughout these project phases, there is a need to constantly monitor and report, which is where project management tools come in. Without project management tools, you'll be scrambling to gather actionable data, track progress, and meet deadlines. The 5 phases of a project constitute the project management life cycle, which coincidentally is the title of a book by projectmanager.com CEO John Westland. Now let's look at each of the 5 phases. Initiation. Before the project is approved or rejected, these 2 documents are created to sell the work to stakeholders or sponsors. Business case. Here is where you justify the need of the project, which includes analyzing return on investment. Feasibility study. You need to evaluate the project's goals are, the timeline to completion, and how much the whole endeavor will cost. You also note what resources will be required to fulfill the project, and if it makes financial and business sense. The second is planning. Once the project has been approved, it's time to create the schedule and tasks. Then secure necessary resources for your project. You'll also need a mechanism to disseminate project communications and reports. If the project is approved, then the next step is to assemble a project team and to start planning how to manage the project so it can achieve its goals within budget and on time. The project plan will include what resources are needed, financing, and materials. The plan also gives your team direction and the following. Scope. There will be a written scope statement which reiterates the need for the project and what its deliverables and objectives are. Definition. Here you break down the larger deliverables into smaller ones, which will help with managing them. Tasks. Identify what tasks are necessary to produce the deliverables. Figure out if any tasks are dependent on other tasks. Schedule. Determine the duration of the tasks and set dates for their completion. Cost. Estimate the costs involved across the project and formulate a budget. Quality. Make sure the quality objectives are met throughout the project. Organization. Note how the project will be organized, including reporting on progress. Staff. Determine roles and responsibilities of the project team. Communications. Decide how information will be disseminated to whom and with what frequency. Risk. Determine what risks are likely, how they'll impact the project, and plan how to resolve them. Procurement. Decide what work or materials will be contracted, define those contracts and who they'll go to. Use something like a Gantt chart for planning and scheduling. A Gantt chart is the most dependable tool for project planning. A Gantt chart is a visual representation of all your project tasks and deadlines, laid out in a timeline format. That brings us to the third, which is execution. Once the roadmap has been created, it's time to start, but that doesn't mean you're simply cruising through this phase. You are assigning tasks to team members and dealing with paperwork. Now that you've done your planning, it's time to start the project. This is where the rubber hits the road, but that doesn't mean you're just cruising. The phase is made up of these detailed processes. Executing the plan. Follow the plan you created, assign the tasks to team members, and manage and monitor their progress with project management tools like Project Dashboard. Administration. Manage the contracts secured in the project. The fourth is monitor and control. There will be issues that will arise over the course of the project, so it's crucial that you're monitoring the project's progress and controlling those changes. To ensure that the project plan is being actualized, all aspects of the project must be monitored and adjusted as needed. To do this, follow these processes. Reporting. Have a metric to measure project progress and an instrument to deliver this information. Scope. Monitor scope and control changes. Quality. Measure the quality of deliverables and make sure that the planned quality is being met. If not, evaluate how to improve the quality. Schedule. Keep track of delays or blocks that impact the timeline of the project and adjust to stay on track. Cost. Monitor expenses and control cost changes. Risk. Note changes in risk throughout the project and respond accordingly. Here is an example of what we call the dashboard for project management. Please feel free to use these. The fifth and final phase is about closing. The project isn't over once the deliverables have been delivered. There is still outstanding contracts and other paperwork that needs signing, distributing, and archiving for use when planning future projects. The last phase of the project is closing it out. This involves another set of processes. Scope. Make sure the project deliverables have been completed as planned. Administration. Close out all outstanding contracts and administrative matters, archive the paperwork, and disseminate to proper parties. Thank you.